really quite extraordinary words coming from a professional footballer talking about the issue of concussion.
Yes, and the fact that it is a current professional footballer is particularly interesting. Rafa Varane has added some very strong words to the discussion that we've had a lot on breakfast, haven't we? It is the issue of heading the ball in football and indeed concussion in sport more widely. We've covered it on the sofa, and the Manchester United defender Rafael Varane is the latest in a series of footballers to speak about the concerns around the continued impact of heading. He is, though, a current player. And in an interview with the French sport newspaper L'Equipe, Varane said, even if it doesn't cause any immediate trauma, we know that in the long term, repeated shocks can have harmful effects. The France defender also said, I don't know if I'll live to be 100, but I do know that I've damaged my body. The dangers of headers need to be taught on all amateur football pitches, and to young people. Varane said that he put himself at risk by playing against Germany back in the 2014 World Cup for France, having been hit on the head in their previous match, saying this: I finished that match against Nigeria, but I was in autopilot mode. Then he explained the kind of barriers to dealing with concussion. As footballers, we are accustomed to pain. We are a bit like soldiers, tough guys, symbols of physical strength. But these are symptoms which are quite invisible. And now it's influenced how he raises his children, saying, my 7-year-old son plays football and I advise him to not head the ball. Well, we're joined by John Stiles, whose father Nobby was one of the 1966 World Cup winners. He campaigns to raise awareness about the risks associated with heading in football. John, thank you very much indeed for being with us.
Pleasure.
It is that fact, isn't it? Rafa Varane is a current player. He is an international player for France. He is a player at a very big club, Manchester United. He's had some very strong words.
Yes, and I'm really encouraged by him having coming out and saying this publicly, because we've been hammering on about it for a while. And he is right to be worried. The disease that is killing so many footballers, like killed my father, is CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Tau protein breaks off with every impact. Then over the years, they clump together, settle on the brain. And when we donated my dad's brain, it was riddled with that disease. Interestingly, I did write to all 92 league clubs and the Women's Super League clubs 2 years ago, advising them that myself and Professor Willie Stewart, who's the leader in the field, would come and talk to the players. We've got a couple of responses. One was from Manchester United, but it was a no. We wouldn't be allowed to talk to the players.
I know they've said that Willie Stewart's been to see them for other reasons too, but if you are facing difficulties in terms of telling your story and the story of your dad to those current players, how important is it that Rafa Varane and perhaps now others think to themselves, yes, I am a tough guy when I play football, but this is an important thing that I need to say for not only him, but also clearly his son?
Absolutely. You're basically saying exactly what we've been saying for the last 3 years since my dad died. And it's glaringly obvious. We know the science. And what he's done today, he's confirmed the science. And for a current player to come out, I'm sure he won't be thanked by the football clubs and the football establishment for saying it. But it's true. This is a really serious problem.
John, it's really interesting, isn't it? You maybe didn't get much of a response from the clubs, but do you sense that the players maybe want to talk about it, even if the clubs don't? Because for the clubs, the players are their assets, aren't they? So the players themselves have got to start to say something.
Well, the trouble is the players may not be aware. Although Varane has said he's worried long-term, he may not know what the science is, i.e. CTE. So I would be very interested to know if he's researched it and if he's found out. And if he hasn't, I'd certainly like to tell him how it works. He's 30 now, and he'll have been in an academy since he was a kid. So he'll have headed the ball all of those years. And all of that time, this tau protein is gathering in his brain.
And that's the difficulty in something like this, isn't it? It's proving cause and effect. And as you said, there's the science there that is now starting to make that link, but it's making people aware of that link when actually the symptoms of it may show up much, much later in life.
The footballers are starting with symptoms around about late 50s, early 60s. Last week I spoke to two champions of the league in England, and they believe they're starting with symptoms. They believe they're losing their memory. There's 55,000 ex-footballers. And if Professor Willie Stewart's figures are right, between 30 and 50% of them will get dementia. Oh. I spoke to Willie Stewart last week, and I said to him, out of all the brains he's examined, football players' brains, how many had CTE in them? He said 70%.
And it's not just football, is it, John? There are lots of other sports that are starting. I know rugby particularly, they're starting to look at this. Are there any other sports that football might be able to learn from?
I don't know about learn from. We've got to start being able to tell the players, first of all. But obviously, any sport where there's a head impact, rugby, boxing, ice hockey, NFL, you're going to get this disease. It's not rocket science. You get banged in the head thousands of times, you're very likely going to get CTE. So, absolutely. I think all the sports can learn, but I'm primarily stuck on football because it's what killed my dad.
The game is trying to limit headers in young players. It's outlawed in training, and then it's built bit by bit in terms of the age ranges, and it's limited in training as well for professional footballers. As Ben said, this is an inertia, if you like. It happens young and then continues on into the older generations. Does it have to almost begin at source when you are a child, at the age of 7, like Rafa Varana's son? Is that the way that you'd be able to try and limit it in the future?
Well, they've got a limit, but I don't know whether that limit's being policed at all, so I'm sceptical about that. But basically, everybody needs to be educated. Everybody needs to know. So, in my opinion, parents whose kids are playing should have to sign a waiver saying they've been informed and they're happy for their child to play. When they get to 18, he or she then has to do the same again. And if they know, they can make an informed decision. But at the moment, they don't know. I mean, Varane's come out. I'd love to know what the research he's done. I'd love to know what he's actually done. But this is a massive, massive problem. In my opinion, it's like a CTE dam is ready to burst. And there's that many ex-players who are at risk.
I know the FA, Sally and Ben, have undertaken studies. The PFA are trying to do the same thing. So, as John so rightly says, the information needs to be brought in as much as possible so that they will then feel, I imagine, a little bit more qualified to make the kind of decisions that so many people have had to make personally themselves over the years. Thank you, John. Appreciate you being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.